Acclaimed author Salman Rushdie is on a ventilator and unable to speak after he was stabbed at an event in New York on Friday.
Warnings of an environmental disaster after thousands of dead fish have been washing up in the River Oder between Poland and Germany.
Taliban fighters unleash warning shots as a rare women's rights protest is staged in Afghanistan's capital city.
A Spanish outdoor music festival had to be suspended after strong gusts of winds damaged part of the stage, killing one person.
Acclaimed author Salman Rushdie is on a ventilator and unable to speak after being attacked at an event in the United States. The 75-year-old, who received death threats after writing his controversial book The Satanic Verses, was stabbed in the neck on Friday evening.
Here's the man. Can you get it?
Police raided the house of suspected attacker Hadi Matar, a 24-year-old man from New Jersey who was arrested at the scene. Detectives say they're still trying to establish a motive behind the attack.
Have any idea at this point? Like I said, it's very early. We don't have any indication of a motive at this time, but we are working with the FBI, the Sheriff's Office, and we will determine what the cause of this was or what the motive for this attack was.
Indian-born Rushdie has received praise and criticism for his work, which most notably includes his 1988 novel, which was considered blasphemous by some Muslims due to its references to the Prophet Muhammad. He's since become an advocate for freedom of speech and has defended his work on several occasions.
It was Salman Rushdie's fourth book, The Satanic Verses, which changed his life. The reaction to the postmodern surrealist novel forced the 40-year-old to go into hiding for nearly 10 years when it was published in 1988. Some Muslims around the world considered the publication to be blasphemous. And on February the 14th, 1989, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, issued his fatwa, calling on the British American citizen's execution and offered a reward of €3 million. However, the author continued writing despite the threat, hoping that the bounty on his head would eventually be lifted.
It's clear that they must cancel.
Iran must rescind the fatwa. That is the least we can demand. I ask the EU countries to push for this. Rushdie only began to emerge from his life on the run in the late 1990s after Iran said it wouldn't support his assassination. He became an advocate of freedom of speech whilst living in New York. Rushdie saw his works rewarded despite the fatwa.
In recent years, I've been somewhat deflected from, if you like, a literary conversation. And one of the great pleasures of the Moore's Last Sigh, anyway, of its publication around the world, has been the return of that interest in my literary work. And this is, I must say, is one of the great moments of that.
30 years after The Satanic Verses was published, the 75-year-old had just announced the publication of his 15th novel, when he was stabbed during a conference in the state of New York. At least 11 people have died after a shooting rampage in Montenegro. The incident happened on Friday afternoon local time when a 34-year-old man also shot two siblings with a hunting rifle. They were aged 8 and 11. 6 other people were injured. The Montenegrin Prime Minister says that this is an inconceivable tragedy in Montenegro. I'm asking citizens of Montenegro to keep the families of the killed in their thoughts. We are praying that all the injured ones, especially ones with bad injuries, survive, and that everything ends well for them. It's understood that the family were staying in the shooter's house as tenants. Authorities say it's unclear what the motive was. A 3-day mourning period was declared in the country on Friday.
Streets turned into rivers in southern Italy. The aftermath of flash floods following violent thunderstorms on Friday. The worst hit area was the coastal town of Silla. A combination of high seas and the rain has damaged the seafront promenade and destroyed bathing areas. And locals say rivers of mud washed cars and debris down the streets.
I need my car to live and work. I'm in a situation where I've lost everything. I've lost everything.
This happens every year. It's not an episode. It happens every year because the pipes are too tight. So what happens is that the manholes blow.
Firefighters have been called out across the region to clear streets buried by mud, fallen trees and other debris. Authorities say the impact of landslides on the volcanic island of Stromboli were worse because of a recent fire which cleared all vegetation.
A clean-up operation and an investigation are underway after thousands of fish have been washed up dead on the Oder River running through Germany and Poland. It's unclear what's causing the fish to die, but authorities suspect chemical poisoning. I see the animals dying before my eyes. I know that the fishermen will lose their livelihood, that the visitors to our national park who want to experience its wildlife will be gone in a few years. Maybe there'll be tourists curious to see the catastrophe. The river is Poland's second largest, and there are warnings of an environmental disaster, which officials say could take years to rectify. Residents are being urged to stay away from the water. Poland's Prime Minister visited the site. Dear compatriots, my commitment is not only to find and punish the guilty ones, but also to minimise these losses as soon as possible and restore the original state of the Oder River. And I believe that it will be possible in a short time. According to some reports, fishermen have been hauling out dead fish for weeks. Environmental groups have criticised Poland's government for its slowness to react to reports of contamination in July.
This is the moment Taliban officials fired gunshots into the air to disperse a rare women's protest in Afghanistan's capital of Kabul. Chanting bread, work and freedom, around 40 women marched in front of the Education Ministry on Saturday, just days before the Taliban marks its first year in power. Strict laws regulate women's rights in the country, with limits on their ability to work and have an education, as well as restrictions on travelling alone. Some protesters were reportedly beaten by Taliban fighters, who intervened to break up the demonstration.
3 refugees have died after the minibus they were travelling in overturned after evading a police check. The vehicle failed to stop at the border crossing between Slovakia and Austria on Saturday morning. It's believed the driver lost control of the van after accelerating and trying to get off the highway on the next exit to Kitsi. He's believed to be a human smuggler.
We
arrived, we found 20 migrants in the bus. For 3 of them, any help came too late. They died in the accident, 1 woman and 2 men. 7 other people were heavily injured and have been taken to nearby hospitals, some with helicopters.
Several helicopters, ambulances, the fire brigade and police were involved in the rescue operation. And the highway to Vienna was closed as the accident scene was cleared. 4 children were amongst those found in the minivan. Austrian police say the countries of origin of the migrants are not yet known. Thousands of people protesting in the South Korean capital Seoul on Saturday. They braved rainy weather to call on the government to suspend its hostile policy towards North Korea and China. Demonstrators also demanded that Seoul suspend its military cooperation with the United States and instead push for a peace treaty and cooperation with Pyongyang. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket taking off from the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California on Friday. It was carrying the latest batch of the company's Starlink satellites, which will be part of a network providing internet services to people around the world. The 46 spacecraft will join the nearly 2,500 satellites already in service.